of all, you're here at Western Illinois to talk about marketing and music,
Mm-hmm.
and also Kickstarter. So tell us more about how Kickstarter has changed the industry.
Well, it's changed the whole landscape of preparing and financing any kind of a project. Not just a music business related project, but any kind of entrepreneurial activity. So instead of going to the bank with your financial plans and maybe not, maybe getting the funding and then starting the process, Kickstarter actually starts the marketing process for you, right? Because if people are going to invest, then you're almost pre-selling them the product before it exists. So it's put the emphasis back on great products that inspire, ideas that inspire people. That's how you get people's attention first, and then their money. It's one of the myths about it, I think, is that you're just sitting there asking for help, and that's not what it is. You're saying, here is my product, and it doesn't exist yet, but here's the prototype, or this is what I'm going to do. And you're selling people goods in advance of them existing. So if I was a band, like, hey, I want to make this acoustic album in Paris, and here's why it's relevant, and here's why it's interesting, and then you tie in rewards based on that. So for $20 or $30, maybe you get the album and a croissant, right? Something, for $500, you get to go to Paris and have the experience on the set of the film or the recording or whatever it is. So it's what I think has been lost in a lot of the music business, is that imagination, that creative spark, the ability to inspire others to jump on board with you. And for me, using it for my book, my third book, it's advanced marketing. It's letting everybody know that this book is coming out. You can get involved now, but where we're doing all the hoopla to succeed with the Kickstarter, we're also letting everybody else know that the book is on its way and it's coming. So it's just so useful on so many levels.
You talked about briefly there, how did the Kickstarter program really help your Band Smart book? Just promoting it and just getting it out there for the public to be aware of it.
Well, it did a few things. Very simply, we asked for $18,000 and we got $27,500. So that was a help. It gets complicated. It takes a lot of time to fulfill the rewards. It's not simple. You enter into a relationship with people. So it's not just like, well, it could be, here's my book, thanks for your money, and here's the shirt, bye-bye. But I found at the higher levels and even at the lower levels, people feel as if they are now part of my story, part of my success, if you like, and they are, right? So it brings with it some more responsibility. I think it was a great advanced marketing push for the book. It was great to have that money and the visibility. But it's not the downside, it's just a little warning bell for anybody who doesn't want to interact with their fans or customers. Well, first off, they're finished, because the new business is just interacting, that's all it is. But some people committed to different levels, and now I have to commit to deliver to them. So I said, I think at the $1,000 level, I'll play drums on your album. And a woman in Detroit chose that level. A few people chose that level, but she wasn't ready, So at some point, so there's an open-endedness to it that is cool, but at some point I need to play drums for this woman in Detroit who now is in Arizona. So, okay, it would be easy for me to drive from Chicago to Detroit. Now she's in Arizona, so it needs some more careful routing. And she has 2 pet alligators. Right.
Yeah.
So
there's a little dangerous, like.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great illustration of like, this isn't just, here's the drums, bye-bye. Yeah. It's like, alligators, So it's almost like I have to call somebody, like I'm going on a dangerous hiking expedition. Yeah. I'm going to this location. If you don't hear from me in like 8 hours, call the police or call me. But I think that's this new commerce. It's, you might think you're going to get the funding for a book or your project out of this, and in the end you get these relationships and stories about the woman with the alligators. You get a different life outcome, I've seen Kickstarter used for all kinds of business ideas. There's one called Foldable Me, which you can create your own fold-up version of yourself. It's like a Wii interface almost, where you choose the glasses and the hair, and the suit or whatever, or shirt. You get to choose all different facial and body types of clothing, and then you have this fold-up cardboard version of yourself. And they were asking for $2,000. They raised $25,000. Wow. There's great ideas on there.
Tell us more about Band Smart and why it's different from other music business books.
So, do you have the ability to bleep?
Yeah.
Okay. So, my first book, Tour Smart, says fuck 166 times. And I had meetings and conversations with peers and friends, and also.
You can go through. Okay. Sorry.
So my first book, Tour Smart, says fuck 166 times. And I had conversations with peers and friends and business associates about how stupid that was. Yeah. Because Columbia College Chicago said that my book was offensive and they wouldn't recommend it. They'll let students buy it, but they couldn't recommend it as part of their program, which is a different kind of offensive, because to me, one of the reasons I wrote my first book was that their touring book was written in 1962, which to me, that's offensive to teach, But, so I found my own voice, if you like, which is harsh realism, no holds barred reality with some humor. Right? It's all well and good having fantastic information, but in this ADHD world, if you're not putting interesting things on the page, people are going to treat your book like a phone book. It's as intimidating as that. So Band Smart takes that whole idea of lots of graphics, irreverent content, mixed with me using my leverage to get my peers to speak, and so it's the same formula that I use with Tour Smart, but maybe underlined a bit. There's probably more fucks, and part of my Kickstarter campaign was you could buy one, and I'll put an extra one in my book. More professionals giving great advice, just a few words or several pages. The agent section alone has maybe 40 different contributors, and it doesn't answer all the questions, but I think it does a pretty good job of explaining the chicken and the egg situation of bands and agents. And so that's the theme. In some ways, it's the prequel to Tour Smart. It's what you do. It's everything that goes into getting to a point where you are touring, from deciding to be in a band, to choosing a name, to the SEO of band names, to studio tips, techniques, lots of marketing, there isn't any social media in TourSmart. There's 100 pages in BandSmart. So, what was your question? What is BandSmart?
Basically, like, how is it different from other music business books?
Okay. So, thank you. It basically says, I say this in all of my books, things like a contract isn't a protection, leverage is. Mm-hmm. If you sell tickets to an event, you have leverage. If you don't sell any tickets, it doesn't matter how thick your contract is, you're not getting paid. Mm-hmm. It's real world. I don't deny or sometimes I do badmouth delivering the old world education, if you like, but real world, some parts of the music business, some parts of entrepreneurial business are basically you're a pirate on the high seas, and there are rules in that world, and they're different than the rules in the theoretical world. So I think that's what BandSmart does. It delivers a ton of opinions from other people in a voice, with graphical content that I think makes it readable.
So understandable, like more likable, more pretty much people nowadays will actually like stay tuned in it.
Right. I mean, I've seen, I don't know what your background is, but I've seen copyright classes. Yeah. And, there's just pages and pages of mind-numbing stuff. So we're on the 5th draft of the 13-fingered, 2-headed zombie copyright baby. Yeah. And it's just this horrible looking cartoon with all these fingers, and so there's the different copyrights. There's the master and there's the publishing, songwriting, and that's the 2 hands, and each copyright is on the gloves of this disgusting 2-headed zombie baby. And I'm trying to find different ways of illustrating this information, because I've attended a bunch of copyright seminars. It's the same thing. It's mind-numbing. So it's like, okay, it's a teaching problem, and maybe I'm just trying to make it easier for myself to remember this stuff, and find different ways to communicate along the way. So that's what it is.
Okay. Thank you. When you talk about music business and your knowledge, whether it's at Madison Media Institute or here at venues like at Western Illinois, what do you hope to tell your audience or advise them about the music industry? Since they're all students and you've been for 3 decades in the music industry. Yeah,
I have been, but I've been in my career has changed a lot. Mm-hmm. So I started off drumming, and that's all I did. Although I built amplifiers on the side as a hobby thing. And then I started to spend a lot of time in studios, and then I started to manage bands, because one band in particular, if I hadn't started to manage it, it wouldn't have existed, and I wanted to be in it. That was a band called Killing Joke, who are touring right now. Actually, they're still going, God bless them. So then I started my label, because I had some projects that nobody was interested in, and amazingly enough, it was the band I started called Pigface, which had Trent Reznor, Flea from the Chili Peppers, all kinds of amazing people on it. Nobody wanted it. And so a guy said, I don't want to release this, I don't particularly like it, but I'll help you if you want to do it yourself. I'm like, okay. So I started a label. And then because I had a label, I started a studio, because I was giving all of my money to local studios, and I'm like, screw that. If I have my own studio, it's just an entrepreneurial opportunity. And I do package tours, and I did all this stuff. And then I started teaching by accident. And then I wrote 1 book, and now I'm finishing my 3rd. And now, if I had to say what is it that I do, I teach, I'm a public speaker. Mm-hmm. So I did Melbourne, I keynoted Melbourne Music Week in Australia. I'm going to Spain for Primavera Pro, Norway for the 5th or 6th time at the end of the year. That's what I do now. So yeah, there are opportunities in the very broad description of the music business, but you need to be agile. you need to be looking forwards, not back, not trying to recreate the way it was, because it isn't that way anymore, and it probably wasn't then. And go, the guy who started the Holiday Inn chain, he said, you walk through the doors that are open. And I think, I don't know if I've tried to do that or I've just done it. When I was asked to teach, I had a moment of like, what the teach? Why would I want to do that? But that door was open and I walked through it. And if I hadn't, I wouldn't have realized there was an opportunity for a gap in the market for a book about touring. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't have attempted to write Band Smart if I didn't already have my brand, right? That my voice, because there's a lot of books about the things that are written about in Band Smart. So staying agile on your feet and being prepared to take skills you learn in a music business context and apply them to other fields. So my last record label manager worked on the Obama campaign, and then the mayoral race in Houston, the mayoral race in Pittsburgh, and now he's with the AFL-CIO. And those are just record label skills. It's like, what are we going to promote today? A single, a tour, a band, or an idea and a candidate? It's the same. And I took ideas from a Clinton documentary called The War Room and applied them to the logistics of routing and marketing a tour. So once you realize that music business skills are relevant in a political climate, then political skills, Obama's a pop star. Yeah. That's all and his social media skills are second to none. Mm-hmm. And so we're like, okay, how can we apply that to the music business? How can we apply music business to other fields? That's where it gets interesting. I don't know if I answered the question.
Yeah, you definitely did.
Okay.
Your knowledge of the music industry is highly regarded among other professions, like journalists and artists. What is it like touring all around the world and being a vital part of the music industry all these years, like previously stated?
Well, it's weird, I wish I had this backwards music career, if you like. So when I was 18, I was in a band with Johnny Rotten he'd just left the Sex Pistols. So we're on live television in England, live radio with a guy called John Peel, who's like the radio god of for so many people over a 20-year period. Then we did American Bandstand here in the States, and we're in Japan, Australia, and we had hotel suites for 3 days. When I took my own band Pigface on the road, you see a hotel for a shower every 3 days. You're just sleeping on the bus, getting from one gig to the next, and just trying to get through it. So, it would have been nice to have it be reversed, to end up with the suite for 3 days and having it be more luxurious and easier as it went on. But it's been great to experience the world at somebody else's expense. Sometimes it's my expense, but to do it again as a speaker, where all I have now are my props and my mouth, it's a cool way to travel, and I don't always get an extra day to hang out. Like when I go to Spain, I have to get back. Although I could stay for a week, but I have 4 kids in Chicago. I need to get back and help out and deal with whatever's going on there. But it's just been an interesting journey of these different ways of seeing the world and growing my experience, if you like.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you
very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.